favorites.
Right.
So it's nice. Anyway, all right, you ready?
Yeah.
Evan, I'm so excited you're on this podcast right now.
I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Talking to the mic just a little bit more.
Is this better?
Much better. We
All
need
right.
to hear your deep, beautiful voice.
I appreciate that.
All right. So we were talking before we hit record, and I just kind of went over a few of the things that I want to hit. You and I both attended Pensacola Christian, but you stuck with the finance major, whereas I dropped out after one semester. And I know how you feel about that. But I want to hear about the rest of your time in finance at PCC, and then what led you to stay in Pensacola, because you're not from here originally, and then where you're working now. So to start off, what made you choose PCC? What made you go to Pensacola Christian?
I've heard this pretty commonly actually with people from the north, is that they came down to the beach weather.
Correct.
So yeah, that was
Guilty.
definitely part of the decision to come down here. Also, I knew that the educational program at PCC was strong, and being part of a Christian environment was pretty important to me and my family. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what led me to PCC.
Okay. And I mean, the number of liberal arts Christian schools are very small.
Right.
in
Especially at the
country.
cost of PCC.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and then what made you choose finance? Have you always kind of had a head for business, or, I mean, I know you're a very analytical guy. So did it just make sense?
Yeah, I definitely knew it was going to be something in business. I looked at marketing and management. I looked at accounting. I pretty easily narrowed it down to accounting or finance between those two. Those just quite easily fit into the interests that I had. And then once I jumped into accounting classes and then kind of just learned a little bit more about finance, I knew that I'd made the right choice with finance.
Gotcha.
So.
And what was your goal? You wanted to be an investment banker, right? When we were in school?
Yeah, so commercial real estate was something that was pretty unknown to me, and it's not something that's talked about in classes at PCC, just because that's not a specialization that they offer. So, just looking at the stock market, things like that, as a freshman finance major, and your knowledge,
this is cool.
your knowledge of financial markets at that point, and then comparing that to what like senior year. So, about the end of sophomore year, early junior year, investment banking was definitely the focus at that point.
Okay. And so after you graduated, then you were looking for jobs, and then Catalyst just, it seemed to fit? Or
Yeah, so the story with Catalyst is I had my first internship in 2018 in MediaCom, and that was technically a finance internship, but it was a lot more analytics. Programming was kind of involved there. I learned a little bit of programming in Excel with Visual Basic, things like that.
You love Excel. I know you do.
I do love Excel. I don't love programming though.
Yeah.
So that was something that was interesting to me, and I don't hate programming. I thought it was interesting. It was just a little dull. So my second internship was at Navy Federal, and I started off in fraud, which was interesting, but it wasn't really applicable to finance. Got to learn a little bit about like financial markets, and then banking more specifically. But
I was going to say fraud. What kind of things were you doing?
My job was essentially trying to catch people defrauding either members of Navy Federal or defrauding Navy Federal. So a lot of looking at fake checks, looking at security camera. It was really interesting work. It just wasn't applicable to what I was studying in school. So about 3 months into, about 6 months into that role, I decided that it was time to look into something else. So real estate analytics was a little bit closer to what I was doing at MediaCom in my first internship. So I switched over to that department within Navy Federal, and then I worked there for a little while. And then I worked concurrently with a private equity group here in Pensacola at the same time. So I was working 2 internships concurrently.
Who was that?
Good for you.
His name is Jason Crawford, and his firm's One in a Row. So
One in a Row. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And
because we were living together after you had moved into the real estate division at Navy Fed.
Right.
So what were you doing? We didn't even really talk much about that. What were you doing in the real estate? You said real estate analytics. Can you go into that a little bit more without making it boring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was, like I said, a little bit more programming. So I was looking at key performance indicators of all of the lenders, just looking at like mortgage volume, things like that, to just help upper management make projections about the future based on the numbers in the past. So I just had to dissect the numbers based on the past, make it pretty in a report, and then present it to management.
Cool. Okay, gotcha.
So.
And then at One in a Row, you were doing...
A lot more applicable to what I was studying in school. So I was
Okay.
looking at, business valuations, looking at cash flow, valuing
cool.
the
Okay.
business based on the cash flow, things like that. So it was a lot more applicable to what I was studying in schools, calculating, deeper financial metrics, using terms that I learned in school like IRR and WACC and
Yes.
stuff like
Very
that.
cool.
So
Yeah, whack. That's crazy.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you were working at one in a row, doing things that applied much more to your major. So having said that, is it while you were working there, were you like, yeah, this is fun, I could see myself doing this, or was it not as enjoyable in the real world as you thought it would be? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, I think just like when I jumped into the accounting classes freshman and sophomore year, and then especially the more finance focused classes junior year, it really just reinforced my decision.
Okay.
So starting especially at one in a row, I knew that was definitely something that I wanted to pursue in the future.
Gotcha.
And then kind of getting back to my earlier point and how Catalyst fell into that. At that point, then I had on my LinkedIn real estate from Navy Federal, and then I had private equity from one in a row. So
Pretty
those
well
two
filled out.
keywords.
How old were you at that time?
That was immediately after graduation, so I was just 22. I just
Yeah.
turned 22.
That's a pretty good amount of life experience.
It looks good on a resume.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
right.
sorry.
That's right.
Yeah. So having those two on my resume, private equity and real estate, Catalyst is a private equity real estate group.
Wow.
So those were kind of buzzwords that popped up, and a recruiter actually reached out to me on LinkedIn. And when I first saw the message, I thought it was spam because he didn't use a specific company name. He said there's a dynamic real estate firm in Pensacola looking for an analyst. And
Dynamic. Wow.
I was like, yeah, sure it is. So I was actually sitting in chapel at PCC when I got the message.
Shame on you being on your phone in chapel.
Well, that's why I didn't reply. I put my phone away. No, so I thought it was spam. So I kind of ignored it, put it away. And then like a month later, I replied to it. And I was like, oh, really? Almost sarcastically. And then he replied, yeah, Catalyst. And I had heard of Catalyst because the founder of Catalyst is good friends with Jason Crawford, who I was working for at the time.
Oh, okay.
So everything kind of just lined into place there.
Wow.
Started interviewing, had a really, really difficult case study at Catalyst that I spent all weekend working on.
I remember.
And I think that introduction to real estate was like, wow, this is something that I can see myself doing.
Very cool. I love that. That's awesome. And you've been there for how long now at Catalyst?
Let's see, October 15th would have been a year, so just over a year now.
Okay, cool. That's really exciting to see. Like, I think that's one big benefit of college that people don't often talk about is it gets you out of wherever you're living and it opens up your horizons tremendously.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
also, I mean, you didn't even after going to college and graduating, you didn't have any knowledge about real estate as far as, as far as collegiate studies go.
Right.
So there's so many like divisions and branches and even whole industries that you're just not even exposed to. And all of those have trickle down positions and things like that one of them was a good fit for you and you had no idea, but so it's something that I think it's good for a lot of people to at least go to a little bit. I mean, that's what got me down here,
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And especially like freshmen jumping into college and they say, all right, I'm going to study business. Like, okay, that's fine as a freshman.
I have no idea how broad that is.
But when you get to a junior level and you still say, yeah, I'm studying business, like, all right, you should really be more specific at this point.
Yep,
So.
I agree. So with the position opening up you weren't at Catalyst when you decided to stay in Pensacola. So what made you decide to stick in this area? Was it just opportunities in general? You didn't want to go back to the cold up north, or?
Yes, I actually had no intention of staying in Pensacola until Catalyst popped up. And I was offered full-time positions at Navy Federal, and I loved working for Navy Federal. It was a great company.
You didn't want to stay?
It just wasn't, like I said, it wasn't applicable to what I was studying, and it wasn't what I wanted to do full-time. So the internship there was extremely valuable, and I loved working there. But it wasn't something that I wanted to do forever, which is why I didn't accept a full-time position there. So I was essentially just looking for full-time positions. I interviewed with Bloomberg in New York and then Invesco in Atlanta, and I got to final round in both of those that just didn't pan out. So evidently my round 4 interview skills are not as good as the first 3
you
rounds.
You got to practice that round 4 then.
Right. Yeah. It's very different from the first 3.
Now you were doing some crazy networking and trying to, specifically using LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure, when you were in school.
Right.
And you and Andrew Ray, who was my RA, also, you guys were kind of doing that together. What was your strategy? You were looking for jobs.
Yeah, so we originally got the idea off of a website called Wall Street Oasis, and it's essentially where people that are very interested in high finance jobs can go to learn from people who are ahead of them. And hearing the strategies that freshmen and sophomores had on that website who were trying to go to Wall Street seriously, and then comparing it to what we were doing as juniors.
You're like, you got to step it up.
Yeah, we felt extremely behind and underprepared. So we tried to overcompensate as much as we could to make up for lost time. So we would look for a company that we wanted to work for. And if they had a job listed or not, didn't matter. We would just pick someone off of their employee list that we wanted to contact. If they had their email on that, great. If not, then we would try to guess what their email would be based off of their domain.
That's what it was. I knew it was something
Right. So
crazy.
we do like first letter of first name plus last name at their domain name. And we would shoot them an email just trying to introduce ourselves and set up a phone call. And if that went through, great. If not, then we'd keep trying until we got their email. Most of the time it was just first letter of first name, then last name, and then their domain. And I'd say like half of the people that we reached out to emailed back, and a lot of
Really?
people were really, really helpful. So even if it was something like, I don't know, not all the time where we were just looking for a job. So I've got, a network now of people that I can reach out to. There's a banker in New Orleans who just shot me an email a few weeks ago asking how I was doing during the hurricanes.
Wow.
So just having that network is really valuable.
Incredibly valuable, yeah.
Yeah, and just something as small as like resume advice that they could offer was definitely worth it.
That's so interesting. And I love that, because you're like, okay, this is a company I want to work at. Well, they don't have any jobs listed. I'm still going to try and find a way that I can work at that company, you know, and that's such an interesting, such a good way to approach it. If you want something, figure out a way that you can try and do it.
Yeah.
And none of those panned out, but like you said, now you have a network, you're happy where you're at, and you have a bunch of people you can reach out to if you ever have a problem, and people that you've never even met who, that's, your network is valuable. We all know that. So that's super interesting. How many companies were you trying to get into? Like, how many emails would you say you sent?
I'd say I did it a little bit longer than Andrew, but Andrew, just how we both did try to overcompensate for the time lost. Andrew was working a startup at the time, so he reached out to, I think probably just as many as I did in half the time. So I sent probably 10 to 20 emails per week, for 6 to 8 months. A few weeks off in between there, but
crazy.
I sent a lot of emails, and I've got probably a few dozen contacts from that, solid connections that we try to keep up with. And Andrew's job actually came from that, directly from the networking process. Okay. So
yeah, and he's working in venture capital now. So good for him.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing, like you said, there's obviously people who are ahead of where you are, and it's like, oh man, I need to get on my game. But that's good. That's motivating. But also I knew seniors who had no plan either. Yeah. And that's a real problem as well. If you're about to graduate and you don't have a job lined up or anything like that, it is, like I said, it's a problem. But so that's cool that you were trying to go for something, and then you ended up in Pensacola. You said you weren't going to stay. But then Catalyst popped up, and you're like, well, I could see myself here for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what's the plan for the future? Are you just gonna be here until something else comes up, or are you actively searching for anything? Well, I guess that's a bad question. Hey, his boss.
No, I can definitively say that I'm not actively searching for anything else. And that's not to say that I'm going to turn down any future opportunities. Sure. But I'm not, out there on the job market still looking. So I think it's really been good for the last year to kind of let go of the aggressive job search and kind of just dive into my role and put that same energy from the job search into my role.
Yeah. Do you think that this role will translate well into other maybe industries, or is there any, do you feel like this is a good building position for you potentially? Are you building any skills that you wouldn't have had before? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of like more general skills, just general analytics, being able to look at a process and really understand what you're doing, because in multi-million-dollar transactions, it's very important to understand why you're doing something rather than just doing it. Yeah. So, but I think probably the majority of my skills are going to be pretty specialized to commercial real estate. Just learning about all the steps that you need to do to close a commercial real estate deal. And I would say that wouldn't even necessarily translate to like residential real estate or something like what you're doing. And I remember rooming with you. talking about the differences between residential and commercial. They just
hardly anything in common.
They
at
didn't
all.
compare. So
Yeah,
I
not
think
at
the
all.
majority of my skills don't necessarily translate to other industries, but building at like general analytic skills, just getting job experience and understanding what you're doing in the process helps.
Yeah, and also everybody in your company, you know, presumably you made good connections with. I don't know. I'd have to ask them. I mean, I have lived with you, so
You know it's not that good.
No, but you have good contacts there as well. That if anything ever came up, you could use them for references. It's so important to be a good employee wherever you're at, because then when you go other places, you know, you need those people who are you know, giving you positive referrals and references.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who they pick a job and then they hate it and then they're looking for something else. And it's like, man, you don't realize that it's hurting you if you're not having good relationships with your people. So
Yeah, absolutely.
you good? You look like you're about to fall asleep.
No, I'm doing good.
I didn't mean
Just
to bore
listening.
you that
No,
much.
no. I'm
Like
just
real estate
listening.
analytics. Oh.
I mean, it's not like I have anything to put into commercial real estate. I'm just listening to what you have to
yeah.
say.
Are you, I told you to get warmer in here. Are you warm now?
I'm comfortable. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
good.
not
Told
as
you.
chilly as it
I'm
was.
a little on the warm side. It always gets
I'm
warm
feeling
in
that
here.
too.
Yeah. But I'm always that way anyway. So
All right, so tell
It's
me a
funny,
little
way
bit
to-
more.
I was
Sorry,
just
go
going to say,
ahead.
way to call me out on that, because you're typically the one to fall asleep, and I'm nudging you, trying to
we
carry
may
the
have to cut this whole bit out, honestly. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, the first 2 episodes that we did, I don't know what. That's why.
Well, just long days. I mean, waking
Yeah.
up early and then working
that's
out
what we've
every
been
night.
doing recently. You know how, like, we've been waking up early and hitting the gym every day, and so it just seems like whenever there's a downtime, it's just easy to just drift off.
Yeah.
The podcast that I was doing with him, and then a couple others. I hope nobody has noticed, but I've just been like very, almost nodding off, almost to the point of nodding off, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
I bought him a bunch of monsters, so we're
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
why
fix
I
that.
always drink a Monster every. I need that extra
That's-
little.
sounds
extra
healthy.
juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know what? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Sacrifice health for success.
All I've had
Yeah.
is a salad today, a Caesar salad. So I feel much better about how my diet is now versus how it used to be, and I'm okay drinking a Monster every once in a while versus eating nachos and quesadillas all the time.
That's fair. I'll give you
So-
that.
What you were gonna say something before we?
I cut you
I don't remember. I think I was going to ask just a general question about how the market is in
Yes.
residential real estate, how everything's going for you.
Well, I would imagine it's probably similar to how it is for you guys, with rates being so low. A lot of refinance is going on right now. But the refis, from what my lender friends that I've talked to, the refis are kind of getting pushed back to help people who are actually buying houses and have a timeline. You know, they're the ones who are priority number one, but everybody is trying to get a slice of the market right now. Excuse me. It's very busy, very, very busy. So if you're a seller, it's a good time because there's so many buyers. If you're a buyer, it's a bad time because there's so many buyers.
Right.
But regardless, you know, everybody's in the market all the time, every day, you know, trying to make something happen. And it's an exciting time to be a part of. I know this isn't going to last forever, but it's enjoyable to be working on it right now. And especially for Danny just having moved down here, we're very busy right now. We got a lot going on, and it's good for him to have constant deal flow to be able to learn and how the transaction works and different things like that. So it's fun. Now, what about for you guys? Is it pretty much the same way? I don't know how it would differ in the commercial sector.
Yeah, so I mean, back in March, things slowed down quite a bit. And especially when it comes to like lenders, they get a little bit nervous when there's, you know, uncertainty. So things kind of did slow down a little bit.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. Things kind of did slow down a little bit, but things have definitely picked back up more so in the recent months. So
Okay.
we've been pretty busy on the commercial side as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, as a recent home buyer, I know what you're saying, that it's
Correct.
not a good time to be a buyer.
Well, that's and it's crazy because when I was working with you guys, I mean, when did we close on your house? It was like June, I think. Yeah. I'm surprised I remember that off the top of my head. But when we were looking for houses for you, anywhere in that like 175 or below price range was just insane. And we talked about that. I always try and be upfront with people. Now, if it's 275 and below, like from 200 to 250 is absolutely bonkers. And I'm working with a buyer right now. She's qualified around that area, and we can't find anything that's been on the market for more than 24 to 48 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
And if it's on the market for 48 hours, they already have 4 offers and they're trying to prolong it as much as they can to get more, out of it. So it's a really interesting time. It's not going to be this way forever. And I don't know, as long as houses keep appraising, then that's fine. The property values are climbing and everybody in the neighborhood is happy. But yeah, it's stressful. And we were trying to find a house for Danny and Jojo when they moved down, and we just decided just rent, ride it out, rent for the next couple of years.
We just started
and then
looking in February is when we started. Not seriously though, just purely shopping. And March came around, obviously COVID happened, and then loan to value ratios went up and stuff, and things just kind of turned into a seller's market, and we're like, I don't really want to buy in right now.
And it's crazy that it's still, you said things slowed down for you guys in March. It never did for me. It never slowed down. I mean, there was a lot of people who decided for buyers, they were going to wait until, at least people that I was talking to, they were going to wait until, the virus is over or whatever. Like it's an end date,
right?
Like it's the election, just wait till it's over.
Yeah.
But it seemed like there was still just as many buyers in general in the market. Even though some people that I was working with had slowed down. I normally do mostly listings, and all of my listings, pretty much the same story. I only had 1 or 2 listings that were a little higher priced that sat for a little bit longer, and a lot of times there was other factors in there, but they never really slowed down for me at all this year. So like I was saying just a second ago, it amped up and up and up and up until now it's just a frenzy. But all year it's just been kind of climbing.
Now, what do you think that is that commercial would slow down but residential wouldn't? Do you think that would have to do anything with the demographics of the people who are buying homes? And because you think about how the shutdowns have impacted different demographics, and those of lower incomes have lost their jobs at a much higher rate than those people who are working in offices and working from homes.
That's true.
Do you think that would have anything to do with the slowdown rate?
That's a good question. And I'm honestly not sure what it would have to do, because like I said, it seems like in all these different price ranges where I would think, okay, if somebody has an office job or something really white collar, they should be in this price range over here. Well, all of the lower price ranges are still just as crazy. Investors are still going crazy as well. Which going crazy, that's such a professional, everybody's going crazy. But no, I don't know if it has so much to do with demographics, as much as just they're seeing how cheap it is to buy. I mean, with rates being so low, it's just so cheap to borrow money to buy a house. And like I said, I have no idea why it would be slower in commercial, versus, maybe a lot of people they've been waiting for this time. They have a little bit of a nest egg saved up and they're making it work. Versus, like you said, people on a much larger scale might be a lot more worried about the uncertainty. That would be the only thing that I could contribute, to be honest. That'd be the only thing that I would say. But it's interesting to see how, it's kind of the same, but different.
Right.
Between commercial and residential.
Yeah.
So.
Totally different factor. Have you seen any balking on the part of lenders that are kind of slowing down on lending for home?
Do we need to pause?
No, we're good.
Okay.
I'm just keeping track of it. I can't see it from here, so.
Oh, we can turn it. That's fine. I'm not even looking at it.
No, it's the reflection. I straight up can't see it no matter what.
I was wondering if the light would be reflecting off your glasses too.
No, that's okay.
Okay, cool.
It is what it is.
As far as balking on the part of lenders, they did tighten up their underwriting guidelines in the very beginning, and they're starting to loosen up now, which is probably why, like I said, a lot of people that I was working with slowed down. It didn't seem like the overall market did in general, but as they've started to lower the requirements for, hey, you need to have this much saved up for a down payment, and they tightened up the credit score guidelines and all these different things as well, which they're finally starting to loosen up on. So I think private lenders and private mortgage brokers had a lot more freedom to decide, well, we can do what we want, and corporate was a lot more tight, at least from my experience with the 2 or 3 that I've worked with. But everybody's really been pretty committed to making stuff happen, because as long as transactions are getting done, everybody's making money and buyers are moving into their houses and sellers are getting their homes sold. So everybody's really accomplishing their goals, and I haven't seen I haven't met with much opposition. The only problems that I've had is with underwriting taking forever because of the volume of transactions.
Right.
So a lot of people are, a lot of people, I was talking to a lender last week, his underwriting is 12 days out, which normally it's 2 or 3, because once it's sent to underwriting, it can't be that much of a gap of time until they give you the clear to close.
Right,
So
you're on a timeline.
Exactly, yeah. So he said up front, he's like, I can't do anything less than 45 days because we need that first 30 days to do the whole process and then send it to the underwriter and wait 12 days for it to come back. So very interesting. And I'm not sure if this conversation will be meaningful to anybody except other realtors and lenders, but it's
prospective home buyers, possibly.
Yeah, potentially. So,
it's useful.
And it's really, that's why I did, I think our last podcast was 3 things that you should do, or to-do list before going and buying homes, because it's so competitive right now. You have to have your savings, your credit has to be good, and you have to be approved before you even go look at anything, because by the time you step into a door, 20 other people have already looked and probably 2 have already submitted offers.
Right.
It's crazy. So, but it's an exciting time. Again, it's really fun to be young in this industry and see this kind of market, because I know it's going to swing the other way and you're going to see the same thing. We'll see the downturn, and then, it's nice to have experience in this, and then we'll see as time goes on, experiencing different markets, and that's valuable, because a lot of people can make a lot of money when it's good like this, and we'll see, who will
How many
still
are
be
left
around.
after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think we had talked about that before anyway. You need a recession to root out all of the poor performers in every industry, and particularly in real estate. As with realtors, there's such a low barrier to entry. There's a lot of realtors who do not know what they're doing.
Those people in the reflection of the microwaves.
Correct. If you follow my Instagram, you can go see. I post on my story anytime I see a terrible listing picture. And last week, I found a listing picture. This lady, I think she was standing on a chair. I don't remember her name. Otherwise, I may call her out. But she was standing on a chair in front of a microwave with her iPhone and taking the listing picture. And all you could see in the picture was the microwave and her reflection. And I was like, how is this attractive to any buyer online? Why would I want to come see this house?
That's a nice microwave.
Yeah, it's a really nice.
I would like to buy
I would
this.
like to come see this house now. Just crazy. So yeah, having said that, there's a lot of realtors who I feel like they don't treat the job with respect, truly. And I feel like it would weed out a lot of part-time people who don't actually, treat it like a career. But anyway, that's just my little rant for the evening.
Yeah, I actually showed one of my coworkers that post specifically, as well as the one with the typos in it.
Yeah.
Were those the same listing?
No, they were 2 different listings, which is crazy.
Okay.
They were 2 back-to-back listings. I always try and look through the hot sheets each morning to see what new listings are on the market, and they were 2 back-to-back. But that one, the typo was technology, and it was spelled TECK, knowledge, KNOWLEDGE. I can't even spell.
It's hard to misspell words.
I know, yeah, really. I
don't know how you butcher something that badly.
Yeah, technology.
Looks good to me.
I was like, what are you doing? And one of his O's, he had the word of, OF, and it was literally 0, the number 0F. And it was like I was like,
did you type this on a Nokia with T9?
Did your 3-year-old type this for you?
Man.
What do you like to do in your spare time?
Well, this guy, Michael, you got me into scuba diving recently, which we haven't been in a while.
We have not. You and I haven't been in a really, really long time.
Yeah, I've been going with Lydia occasionally, but still not nearly as much as I want to be. Especially now that I own my own gear and everything.
We need to dive Morrison Springs. I don't know if you saw that on my story last Sunday or not.
I did, and that's what Lydia said. She said we need to go.
Clear. It was gorgeous. Because I've been to Vortex, and Vortex is like just a big bowl.
It's a toilet.
It's a toilet, yeah. Morrison, well, I couldn't see far underwater because I was just free diving, but it was really very interesting. It was, we need to go. We really need to go.
All right.
I think you were the first of my friends that I got into scuba diving.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was taking my class, and then I came home like day 3 and 4 when they were teaching us to breathe underwater and stuff, and I was telling you about it, and you were like, I'm going to sign up.
I'm doing it.
Yep. And then you signed up, and then Lydia signed up. My buddy Josh, his brother, and his dad signed up. I'm trying to think of who else.
Indirectly, you got Bob and Justin.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about that on the podcast with Shay. I've gotten a lot of people into diving. It's hard not to gush about it.
Too bad there's no commissions on that, because I'm pretty sure you could just go full time to that and give up real estate.
I should. Yeah. Hey, have I told you about scuba diving? Some lady in Walmart's like, can you please leave me alone? Yeah. So scuba diving, but you haven't been in a while.
Right.
What's your favorite dive location that you've been to so far?
I'd say probably the toilet, Pickens. Or no, not Pickens, Vortex.
Pickens is kind of a toilet too.
Yeah, well, there's a literal toilet at
There
Pickens.
is, yes, a toilet and a golf cart,
which is
and
why I
some
said
reefs.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
I still have yet to see an octopus, and I really want to.
Really?
Yeah.
I did on my second most recent. I went to Vortex actually.
Okay.
And I saw a little octopus. I didn't see it. My buddy pointed it out, so I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, I definitely want to see an octopus, and then eventually I'd love to go shark diving.
You and me both, brother. Let's do it.
All right, let's take a trip.
That was one thing I said I would never do when I first got licensed. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sharks have always terrified me.
See, I won't go
Absolutely
cave
terrified.
diving.
Yeah.
I would do shark
I don't think
diving.
I'll
now.
ever go cave diving again. I've had my cave diving experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, shark diving, after being underwater, I've only ever seen one shark ever. But after seeing a shark, it's much less the ferocious Jaws thing. I mean, obviously those things, those situations do exist.
Right.
But it was much more just a big fish, and it's fun to admire.
Yeah.
So I think in Jupiter they do shark dives.
Okay.
I would love to go on a shark dive out there. Actually, Mason goes every once in a while, our instructor. Well,
Yeah.
he was my instructor, not yours.
Sadly.
Yeah. So we should get a hold of Mason and maybe go with Shay or something, and we'll get you certified too.
Yeah,
we keep
sooner
saying
than
that,
later,
but now
okay.
I think it's too cold. I don't think you guys would enjoy it at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, that's not true. I got certified in October.
I mean, we
And
were
Lydia
just
did
talking
it in
about this.
January.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
You wear a suit. And
Yeah.
Well, you're right. A wetsuit.
It's chilly.
tough
Don't
it
get me
out.
wrong.
Yeah,
but
no,
it's-
I'm not saying
it's
it won't
worth
be.
it.
I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, you think
I'm
about
willing
how
to do
cold
it.
Vortex is. Like freezing cold. Every time I go, I have
Seems
on
as though, yeah.
You see, yeah. Well, I have on my boots, wetsuit, gloves. I have like another wetsuit layer with a hood underneath my actual wetsuit, and every time I go, I'm like, oh man, it's chilly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I went with just my 3mm, and it
I was
doesn't
wearing
even
a
fit
3mm
well.
too.
So I get
Oh, yeah,
water
it's
in my
not
sleeves and
sealed,
ankles
yeah.
a lot. And I was cold, but not too uncomfortable. And I didn't have a hood or anything like that.
I am just very susceptible is not the right word. Sensitive, yeah.
A sensitive guy.
I'm
yeah.
a sensitive guy. Yes, I am. I'm proud of that. No, every time I go, I just seem to, if it's cold, I get uncomfortably cold, not to the point of shivering, but close, like to where I kind of stop enjoying it very quickly. But having said that, we went snorkeling at Morrison and jumping in that water in just some swim trunks with your fins and snorkel on.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. By the time you're in it for a little bit, you're a little more comfortable and you're not immersed in it underwater for long periods of time.
Right.
But oh man, just taking that initial plunge, it was so uncomfortable, very irritating. And there was these two guys. This is so off topic, but there's these two small, wide boys just sitting there telling everyone like, jump in, it's not that cold, come on. I was like,
Well, yeah,
Now
you've
you
got
do-
insulation.
what are you two doing here? I literally told them,
Encouraging you to jump
I
in.
was like, are you like the parks, like are
Moral
you the
support.
pep squad?
Moral
I said
support.
moral support. I was
Moral
like, are you the parks moral support? What are you doing? But yeah, no, anyway, it's much easier when you have when you can bundle up, and I bundle up when I go diving. I don't think I've ever gone without a full wetsuit on, even in the summer.
Well, in the summer,
Part
there's
of that's
jellyfish.
protection
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So scuba diving. Okay. What else? What else do you like to do for fun? Analyze spreadsheets.
I mean, outside of that, I kind of just try to do as much as I can. So, I mean, at the beginning of the summer, remember when we made that list? And a lot of that was interrupted by COVID, for sure.
Yes, it
we had
was.
a lot of things that we didn't get to do. Like
I went back and watched that movie, by the way.
Oh, really?
I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I was actually just listening to Matthew McConaughey on Joe Rogan. I'm not as big of a fan as the Skype interview format.
He doesn't like him either because it's hard. You always talk over each other.
Right.
It's
But-
much easier to be in
But it's
person.
Matthew McConaughey, so you got to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, for
So,
sure.
But yeah, so that's a great movie. But yeah, so I just tried to do as much as possible. So we never got to do biking or paintball. Those were two things. But we did go skydiving this summer. So that was a lot of fun. And
I'm
you need to
very-
go soon.
I'm very irritated that you went without me. The one, like, one time that I left town, and you're like, "Oh, sorry, we're going skydiving."
Bob and Andrew
while you're
were
gone."
here, so it's just
I know,
the timing.
It is what it is.
But you do
we're
need to
gonna
go
again. Yeah,
and I might go a second time.
please do. I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's loads of fun. Outside of that, I've really been diving into poker, which is a lot of fun. You are there for that, so you guys both know.
You and I started that together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I
What
think
even? I'll plug that on here for any professionals who want to tag along.
yeah, absolutely.
What even got us into that in the first place? I think we had. Okay, I watched this movie Molly's Game on Netflix, and it's a movie about poker, but it's more about her story,
Right.
In the underground world of illegal poker. But it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an excellent movie.
I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, poker's kind of an interesting skill set to have. You know,
It
it's
is.
just an
Right.
interesting game.
Yeah.
But I don't remember when you were reading a book at that time. That's what it was. You were reading a book called Thinking in Bets.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what the premise of the book. Well, Thinking in Bets, I suppose. But
Yeah. Essentially, it's just it's written by a former professional poker player, Annie Duke. I think that's her name. And her perspective on life, based on the principles that she learned playing professional poker, are essentially nothing in life is certain. So you assign probabilities to these things to weight probabilistically how outcomes could occur, I guess.
very interesting.
And she kind of gives the main premise of the book is contrasting poker and chess, and life is more like poker in that you could be the best poker player on earth and still lose to someone that has no idea what they're doing, because there's always an element of uncertainty in life, just like there is in poker.
That's
Whereas-
good.
Interesting.
I've heard the comparison to chess before, but never to poker, and it
Right.
makes a lot more sense.
And in chess, you're never going to lose to someone that's not as good as you at
Exactly.
chess. So
Exactly.
that's why
You
she
can
believes
predict.
life is more like poker.
Yeah,
I
because
agree
there's
with that.
always that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I think a few of those things combined, we just started talking about, man, I would like to learn more about the game and just be good at it, you know,
Right.
or at least be competent
Right.
at it. So
That in combination with my boss and the analyst that I work with, we're planning on a work trip to a casino in Biloxi. So,
so you
I didn't want to
needed to
go
know.
and be completely incompetent.
Yeah.
So-
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's when we decided we were going to start like kind of a business mastermind group and get together with some of our friends who are also professionally minded, and do a poker group. And so now we do that on Saturday nights.
Right.
And it's at your house now. It moved from the annex to your place.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't want to just be bringing a bunch of randos to your door.
I mean, that's essentially what it's for.
Yeah,
That's
So-
true for
networking.
networking. Yeah. So if anybody is listening and they want to learn poker, we actually, I think for the last like month that we've been doing it, there's been a new person each time.
Right.
And I think we're getting better and better at explaining it to new people.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to be a deterrent. I'm speaking to you, Daniel Hughes. If you're listening to this, I want you to come to poker night. I'll send just this clip to him.
Yep.
Send it to
So-
me too, because I've got 2 people that don't know how to play that refuse to come because they're afraid.
No, that's okay, Danny, you were new, what, 3 or 4 weeks ago? I mean, you
Yeah,
just
not
moved
that
here.
long
So,
ago.
And
Yeah.
you won last night.
I did,
Yes.
and the night before that. So
nuh-uh.
yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah, remember I beat you. You're
I
the
don't
you're the
remember
one
this
who
at
were
all.
like, let's play.
I've
hand.
erased this from my memory. I don't lose at poker.
Yeah, I don't lose.
Yeah, everybody left, and we were there till like 11:30, and you and I stuck it out, and finally we just let the chips fall where they may, and we played hands up.
Or heads up. Yeah, I remember that. Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such a painful memory that you made
So,
me relive just now.
For me, it's 2 in a row.
Wow. So having said that, how did we make you feel being a newbie?
Well, the thing is, like we were just talking about, I'm playing against guys who know what they're doing, and somehow I won 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
So, like in that aspect, I think it's fun for anybody. And it was easy to learn. It's a basic game.
It really is a
it's all
basic game.
It's all
Right.
about just better judgment, playing smart. You know.
Yeah, but learning the rules is not complicated.
No.
Yeah,
It's
the
not.
rules of
rules are-
poker,
the
it's
rules are
like
very
playing
simple.
Go Fish.
Yeah.
It really
well,
is.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Except I don't know how to play Go Fish.
I was
so-
just going to say, I do not know. I did once upon a time, but I do not know anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago, actually a couple of days ago. We want to start to branch it out just a little bit more and get some more, make it a little more of a networking thing. So, yeah, if anybody's interested in that, hit me up. So having said that, actually we've gotten away from this, but I do want to know, with you not being a Pensacola, not being born and raised here, you know, I know you probably don't have so much knowledge about all the different nuances and places and things like that. But for you being just having moved here a little bit ago, what's your favorite restaurant that you go to? There was such a long lead up to that question.
A restaurant.
What's your favorite restaurant, man?
I've been enjoying Sushi Masa a lot, actually.
You said that just because you know I don't really love them.
Yes, precisely. No, I think pretty much anything that you choose on the beach is going to be good. So
Fair
like
enough.
if you're visiting Pensacola, you definitely got to hit up, not quite to the beach, but like McGuire's on the beach, you got to hit up crabs, flounders, redfish, bluefish, all those places you got to at least try if you're visiting.
Agreed. I agree.
As well as like Fish House.
Yeah.
A lot of good food here, actually, now that I'm listing
There is.
them.
I know. Yeah. Want to go to dinner after this?
But yeah, I think as someone who just likes to eat large quantities, Sushi Masa it's a great option. So
I think McGuire's still remains my favorite restaurant here. It's just a fun spot.
it's a great atmosphere too.
It is.
It
It's
is.
the
It's
atmosphere
fun.
really that I enjoy. But Crabs is my favorite place on the beach, I think. And they both have really good cheesecake.
Well,
so
it's the same owners. So
it is.
Yeah,
Correct. Yep.
makes sense.
Well, awesome. Well, Evan, man, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast. We've been talking for a long time and it doesn't really feel like that.
no,
That's how it always goes.
Yeah.
So we'll get you on this again here soon, and we'll talk more about the differences between commercial real estate and residential.
I could talk all day.
Oh, I couldn't, but no, man, I really appreciate it. And this was fun.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic.